Right, let's get to Paris, but not for the Olympics. Now, countries have been submitting their bid books to host the 2030 and 2034 World Cups. Now, that includes the sole bid of Saudi Arabia in 2034. Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, is here to tell us more. So what's happened today?
Well, look, if you want to host the World Cups in 2030 or 2034, time is running out. You've got 2 days to submit your bids. The deadline is Wednesday. Now, joking aside, I don't think there are going to be any more bids. All the bids that we are going to get, we got today. It's an open secret in the football world. We know the World Cup in 2034 is going to be in Saudi Arabia because they're the only bidders for that tournament. Also, we know that 2030 World Cup is going to be in Spain, Portugal and Morocco, with the opening 3 games in Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay. Why do we know that? Again, because they're the only bidders. But what's happened today in Paris is representatives of all these federations, the presidents or the general secretaries, have gone to Paris and they've met the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, also the FIFA Secretary General, Matthias Grafstrom, and they've handed over their official bid books. So they are officially bidding to host these World Cups. And I think after Wednesday, once the deadline has passed, we'll get more detail about what's actually inside these bid books. We'll find out, for instance, where the host cities are going to be, how many host cities they're going to be, some more information about the stadiums, also about human rights. That's when we need to really have a look at the detail inside these bid books. Right,
you've just told us that we've got sole bidders for these particular World Cups. What's the point of today? What's the point?
Well, rules are rules. FIFA's rules are that even if there's a sole bidder for a tournament, we still have to go through this process. They have to submit their bid book, and the bid book needs to be evaluated, and that is going to take some time. FIFA are going to be doing that over the next couple of months. They will also be conducting site visits. So, for instance, they will be going to Saudi Arabia, they will be going to Spain, Portugal, Morocco, also Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay. They will be evaluating the bids. And then FIFA say that after all this work, if these bids are of the required standard and meet the requirements set out by FIFA in its rules for hosting nations, then later this year, in December, there'll be an extraordinary FIFA General Congress. And at that Congress, they will announce that it's been decided, for instance, that the World Cup in 2034 is going to be in Saudi Arabia, 2030, Spain, Portugal and Morocco.
Before Qatar and the World Cup there, you and I talked many times about all the concerns, all the naysayers have said this and that. Are we going to get the same thing going up to Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think we will. I hope we will, and I'm sure we will. And I am confident that these bids are going to be scrutinised, not just the Saudi Arabian bid, but also the other bid for 2030 as well. And I'm sure they will be by human rights groups, for instance, like Amnesty International, by journalists as well. And I'm sure lots of questions will be asked. Now, look, there are 2 ways of looking at this. From the Saudi point of view, if we're just talking about 2034, the Saudi Arabia will say that we are changing as a country. We are diversifying our economy. We have a very young population. We want to move away from just relying on oil. That is why we're investing in sports like football, Formula One, golf, and lots of other sports like boxing as well. Of course, critics will say that this is all about sports washing. This is to change the perception around the world that people have of Saudi Arabia. For instance, its critics say that it has an appalling human rights record. It has an appalling women's rights record. Homosexuality is criminalised in Saudi Arabia. So these are 2 sides of the story. You have to make up your own mind why you think Saudi Arabia is doing this, why it wants to host this World Cup. What is interesting is that the Saudis themselves, I've been to Saudi Arabia, I've spoken to a lot of people in Saudi Arabia, I've tried to get both sides of the story. from a Saudi Arabian perspective, what they will say, and this is the message you will be hearing a lot in the next few years leading up to the World Cup, is they will be saying, our country is changing. We know we're not perfect. There's no perfect country in the world. We believe we're moving in the right direction. And they will keep saying that this World Cup will be a World Cup for fans, and they will say that all fans will be welcome. That is the message they will be putting out, I'm sure, up until 2034. Getting away from the serious issues, just as a side issue, I know a lot of football supporters will be interested. 2034, Saudi Arabia, when is the World Cup going to be? Obviously, we know Qatar World Cup moved, and we had it in December. I think there's a very, very good chance that again in 2034, the World Cup will have to be moved from the summer to the winter months. But let's wait until later this week when we can have a good look at the bid books.
Kaveh Solokol, our chief reporter. Thanks, Kaveh.